Hello, extraordinary educators. Welcome to On Secondary Thought, the home of purposefully imperfect teaching, where we focus on lessons for students in middle school and high school. So, in the past, I've always looked forward to decorating my teaching space in a way that makes my students feel cared for. I know this year is going to be different, but it's also an opportunity to meet students where they live and spend most of their time in the virtual world. It's going to be a heck of a ride, and I'd like to take you with me. I really want my students to enjoy sharing this virtual space with me every day. And one of my core beliefs is the best way to get this done is to create an environment where students know they matter, their words, their actions, their existence. And the lesson that I'm going to be sharing with you today is an introductory lesson grounded in this belief. This lesson was created with the help of a mentor of mine for many, many years, and I hope you enjoy it. So the goal that my students and I will be working toward is answering the question, how can we ensure that we create a virtual learning community where everyone is included in a way that makes them feel valued and respected? By the way, I got these cool slides from SlidesCarnival, and I'll put the link in the description box. Week one, day one. It's a series of 5 lessons, 5 to 7 lessons that I'm going to use to get this school year started, and this is the first one. Here's an overview of the very first day. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. And you can pause it to review it yourself. So I feel like each day that I start my lesson, I want to have some type of entrance activity. It's not necessarily a warm up, but more like an entrance ticket to get students engaged. And for the very first day, I've set up my classroom door or my classroom slide, my chalkboard, and some decorative things that you may find in the classroom, and my Bitmoji here. I've decided to use a Bitmoji for this. Maybe I'll use something different as the year progresses and show you a few of those things as well. My welcome is while you wait, please use this link to complete a quick survey. And the survey is to ask them about their or to find out about their virtual learning experiences. Here it says, what's your virtual learning style? I'd like to know how to help you learn best. And they get to write down the best thing about virtual learning, the worst thing about it, their comfort level when it comes to virtual platforms, how they learn best, a little bit about their family and how their family may be supporting them, how they like to share. And all of this is important because it gives you a sense of how to best present things to your students. I'm a better learner during certain times. And this is an interesting part that I really, really like is introducing the vocabulary to students and getting a sense of how well they know the word so you know how much effort you should be putting into teaching it or whether some students will need more support than others with particular words. I think this slide is important because it's where I introduce myself and the subject I teach and a short activity to keep the students engaged from the very beginning of class. It also enables me to take care of a few housekeeping things like attendance. So once the students have completed the survey and most of them have arrived, or hopefully all of them have arrived, I will revisit the question to share the focus question with the students because we'll be revisiting it often throughout the unit to see if we're achieving it. So I found in my teaching practice that it's been a good idea to give students an overview of any lesson that you're doing. I've used the Bitmoji icon again here, and it serves as a visual indicator of what students should be doing during this time. They should be listening. I think that visual cues like these can be helpful for visual learners, multilingual learners, and students with disabilities. Now we're moving into the warm-up, which is more connected to the lesson. And I like to give my students choice in the warm-up and also a time frame in which to complete it. As indicated by this Bitmoji, the students are going to be writing, and it might be a good time to talk about how students should record their notes. In a virtual classroom of 25 to 30 students, it's probably very important to establish a protocol for sharing. I like to use the acronym SOLO, which stands for share or listen to others, not both. Here, the mic icon indicates that, or the mic emoji indicates that, Bitmoji indicates that students have an opportunity to share out. Students should share their responses in a discussion about online communities. For this lesson, students are going to be creating either an avatar, an icon, or an image that best represents who they are. I plan to talk about how online community members have profiles and profile pictures and discuss some of the images or avatars or icons that people choose. Like someone might choose a rose because it reminds them of warm weather, or a baby picture of themselves, or a peace symbol because that's what their core beliefs are. And I also plan to share my own examples and model those examples and add them to my profile. And I think it's a good thing to discuss why they might choose one profile picture for social media, but a different one for their school life. If students are struggling or you feel like students don't know how to do this, you might want to include a guided activity where you give them maybe a celebrity, and then they decide which icon, which picture would best represent that celebrity, and you work with them to create that. I think it's important also to have planned questions as checks for understanding, and those help me to assess how my lesson is going. This question, what is the significance of an avatar image or icon in an online community, requires my students to apply the information presented during the mini lesson and helps them to prepare for the work period. My follow-up questions might be, how do they see themselves? How do they want the world to see them? And this conversation could get pretty deep depending on how much students are willing to share. I do know it's just the first day, but you never know. Sometimes students can be really open, particularly in a virtual community. Some students might also bring up the subject of catfishing, which I think would be pretty cool to discuss. Now we're moving into the work time. And during the work period, it's 5 to 10 minutes because I feel like students have some experience with this. If they don't know how to actually get it into their profile, they can always just share the picture, the avatar, the icon. And you will have some students who will say, I like the picture that I have, or I've already chosen a picture. Have them pick another one. A second layer to this is that they have to be prepared to share the significance of their choice. Why did they choose this? And here I think it's a good place for a break. At this point, your lesson may be about at the 30-minute mark. And I plan to let my students know in the future that determining when we take a break and how long it might be is a collaborative effort. I think that online learning requires a lot of concentration. I actually had the opportunity to be a student last semester. I took a sabbatical and I had 3 classes, and it was interesting the way the 3 professors approached online learning. One professor was uh, very direct, and while it worked in the classroom, it became a little off-putting when we were online. The tone came across as a little bit abrasive. So as I was participating, I thought to myself, I have to be aware of that. I have to be aware of how I'm speaking to the students, and how when you're in person, it may come across one way because you have body language to accompany it. But when it's just your voice and your face on a computer, it can have a totally different effect. I had another professor whose camera was broken, but insisted that we all be on camera, and I found that uncomfortable. I feel like there will be some students who do not want to be on camera, and that's understandable. Um, and it's not something I would ever force students to do. And at the same time, I think that there may be times when I don't want to be on camera, but you're building a relationship, and I think students will understand, and they'll have their good days and bad days, and you'll have your good days and your bad days as well. The final professor that I had that I really thought did a great job was very understanding, very honest. She did a mix of whole class discussion and breaking us up into smaller groups. She asked us a lot of questions about whether or not we were comfortable with with things, and I appreciated that. And I thought about when I get back into the classroom, um, that's the style I'd most like to emulate. So at this point, your break is pretty much over. During the break, one of the things that you can do is support students who are struggling or have them work with students who seem to be more comfortable with this, creating the avatar, the image, or the icon. And I think this is like a great place to see or show students where they are in the lesson. And I think students will appreciate this because they know they're more than halfway done with the lesson. So we're moving into vocabulary. And the word that we're looking at is safety. And of course, safety is not a terribly difficult word, but in different contexts, it has different meanings. And it's good to support vocabulary with, or I choose to support vocabulary with images and also asking questions where students can apply what they know about safety. So, what can be done to ensure that all students feel safe? What does safety mean in a virtual classroom? And I think it's important to establish a safe environment. Here's another slide that you might use instead of the other one, depending on your students, or in addition to the other one as a follow up. This one requires students to type in the chat. And as you can see, the Bitmoji represents what the students are supposed to be doing here. And then you also want to keep in mind students who are multilingual students, providing students with variations of the word in English, variations of the word in another language. In this case, we chose Spanish. So this is called the Wheel of Names, and I want to share with you how it works. So it's actually part of the slide. You click on it, and you can put your students' names here. These names are already pre-plugged by the company, and you spin it. It stops on a name, and you get a lot of applause. I thought that was really, really cool. I think it's something you might be able to also just share the link in the chat with the students, and they could spin the wheel as well and do some screen sharing. So that was pretty cute. I wouldn't have more than 2 students share. You'll actually probably see more of the avatars, the icons, or the images as you look at their pictures change uh, in the virtual classroom. And finally, you want to do a closing activity. Close out the lesson to kind of find out. I want to find out, did my students learn anything from this lesson? So I have 2 questions. One is the actual overarching question for the lesson. How can we ensure that we create a community where everyone is included in a way that makes them feel valued and respected? And hopefully they'll use some evidence from the lesson, or I could put there, I actually should probably type use evidence from the lesson. And the other question is, during today's lesson, did you feel included in a way that made you feel valued? So here we have a really cool way to share that response to either question. And it's using Jamboard, which is one of Google's applications. I've created a link. Here you make a copy. And you get like a big chart. The students can pick a post-it here. They can change the color if they like. And they can start to type. I felt valued and respected in class when people listened to my comments and agreed with me while adding their own thoughts. And of course, you want students to end the post it with their name, or you'll just end up with a bunch of post-its you don't know who said what. And you save it, and you hit cancel, it'll disappear, and the student can move it. They can make it bigger, they can twist it, make it bigger. And I think that's a really cool way to share your responses virtually. And of course, you want to thank your students for being wonderful participants today, helping you to build this or start to build this community where everyone feels valued and respected, and tell them that you'll look forward to tomorrow or the next class session. Extraordinary educators, we've come to the end of our very first lesson on building a virtual learning community. I hope you enjoyed and liked what you saw today. I'll leave some links in the description box so you can access some of the resources and these slides, these beautiful slides. I will also leave a link in the description box of a survey we'd like you to complete to see what your interests are and what your experience has been with virtual teaching. See you next time here at On Secondary Thought, the home of purposefully imperfect teaching.